The dawn after Operation Iron Gate became active was one I would not soon forget. I woke up to the scent of freshly brewing coffee and the sight of a snaking river of idling cars down Willowbrook Lane, their bumpers glinting in the morning sun like agitated ants in a maze. Horns honked in staccato bursts of annoyance, their noise echoing off the cold iron railing I'd installed with surgical accuracy. Through the bars, I watched Karen Abernathy pacing back and forth like a caged animal in front of the gate, a Bluetooth headset jammed in her ear as she screamed into her phone and waved her arms frantically like a general losing control of her troops. I leaned back in my rocking chair, took a large sip of coffee, and smiled. Poetic justice never tasted so good. The gate itself was a work of art, double-locked, steel-reinforced, and secured by an electronic keypad that only I could open. I'd had it placed at the far end of Willowbrook Lane, where it met the county highway, thereby making it the only legitimate way out of the neighborhood. The so-called service entrance still existed, naturally, but it was a 15-mile backtracking hike across bumpy farmland and potholed dirt roads that would ruin any tire not made for a tractor. To top it off, I'd filed all the right paperwork with the county, formally closing the alternate access routes under the authority of the Miller easement. The roads were legally mine now. It didn't take long for the panic to set in. Within the hour, Karen had called the county sheriff's office, shrieking about unlawful imprisonment, illegal blockades, and violations of emergency access codes. I was sitting on my porch and saw the sheriff's cruiser pull up and Sheriff Darnell himself step out, his boots crunching on gravel, his mustache twitching like it was scenting trouble. A large, slow man with a build like a fence post, he was old enough to remember when my grandfather still herded cattle through town. Karen ran up to him the instant his boots hit the roadway, waving papers and gesturing wildly toward my fence. I couldn't hear every word, but her face said it all. Sheriff Darnell just stood there, silent as a mountain, arms crossed while she ranted. Then he looked up and spotted me on the porch. With a slow nod, he tipped his hat and called me down. I moved slowly over, coffee mug in hand, each step measured as the beat of a war drum. Coffee mug still in my hand, I nodded at Darnell. "Morning, Jack," he said, tipping his hat. "Morning, Sheriff." Karen fairly trembled with outrage. This man has unlawfully imprisoned an entire neighborhood. He put up a gate on a public road. You have to make him take it down, at once. Darnell raised an eyebrow and turned to me. "Jack, mind explaining?" I handed him a thick folder, already prepared, containing the original Miller easement, county road closure permits, certified survey maps, and the legal notices I'd served to the HOA weeks ago. Darnell thumbed through the documents slowly, his mustache twitching. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered. Finally, he looked up at Karen. "Ma'am, this here gate is on Mr. Miller's property. Always has been. The road easement was never properly transferred to public use. And from what I'm seeing, your HOA folks actually put up an illegal fence first, trespassing onto his land." Karen gaped, sputtering, her face a spectacular shade of crimson. But... "No buts," Darnell said calmly. "You built an illegal fence. Jack here is just securing his land. As long as emergency vehicles have access, he's well within his rights." Karen looked like she might combust on the spot. "You mean we're trapped?" Darnell shrugged. "Looks that way. Should have thought twice before annexing land that didn't belong to you." I tipped my hat to her and went back to my porch, feeling lighter than I had felt in years. By noon, the sheer panic set in. Behind the shut gate, chaos erupted. Parents screamed into cell phones while their kids, still in school uniforms, sweated in SUVs. Deliverymen backed out of the growing crowd. Uber Eats suspended all orders. Trash piled up. Contractors dispersed before even struggling with the gate. One man tried to scale it with a ladder, only to fall backwards into a rosebush. 2 women stood holding grocery bags, yelling at one another about who was supposed to have a contingency plan. HOA board members ran from house to house like rats from a sinking ship. It didn't stick. Emergency meetings turned into driveway screaming matches. Karen and company tried to spin it. The annexation was within our rights. It was for the good of the community. But the truth, cold, harsh, undeniable, slapped them in the face. They built their cherished neighborhood on a lie, and now they were paying the price. Word spread. News crews came, setting up just outside the gate. They filmed angry citizens who shouted through the bars. One man, still wearing his Willowbrook HOA Proud Resident t-shirt, nearly cried on camera, saying he could lose his job. Karen tried to make a statement to the press. The crowd shouted her down whenever she made an attempt to talk. I let them stew for a complete 3 days. 3 days of work lost, school lost, trash spoiling, services canceled. 3 days in which Willowbrook Estates was a sun-baked prison. On the 4th morning, I posted a large sign at the gate. Terms of re-entry. Complete removal of all illegally constructed HOA fencing, $75,000 damages payment to Miller Ranch, total dissolution of the Willowbrook Estates HOA board. Public written apology, posted at both entrances for a minimum of 90 days. Future access subject to easement maintenance fees. Notarized, documented, delivered. They tried to fight back, threats, suits, emergency injunctions, but after their lawyers saw the evidence, the canceled insurance policies, and the exposure of personal assets, they capitulated. That evening, Karen showed up on my porch with the other board members lined up behind her. She had the look of someone who'd been sucking lemons. "We're willing to accept your terms," she ground out between her teeth. I leaned back in my chair, fingers locked behind my head, and let the silence stretch until her jaw tightened. "All right," I said finally. "I want that apology posted by sunrise, and take down that darn fence by the weekend." As she was walking away, I said, "Oh, and Karen, next time you go about stealing a man's land, make sure he's not smarter, meaner, and 10 times more stubborn than you." She didn't say anything, just walked away, heels sinking into the dust of a driveway she no longer owned. The downfall of Willowbrook was nothing short of a spectacle. Media swarmed the gates for a week like vultures on a corpse. Helicopter video showed neat rows of McMansions that had been turned into cages. By day 2, Treasurer Martha Sims collapsed on live TV in tears as she blamed Karen and resigned, handing over secret HOA meeting minutes that outlined solving the ranch problem. By day 4, realtors slunk in under emergency access hours, snapping photos of cracked sidewalks, angry residents, and weed-choked lawns. Listings proliferated online. Motivated seller, priced to sell. As is condition. Translation: please God, get me out of here. But no one came. Home values plummeted. 30%, 40%, 50%. Some families abandoned houses outright. Karen was the last to fall. She tried to spin the narrative, held emergency meetings, blamed confusing land records for the mess. But the residents had turned on her. When they threatened to sue her personally, she folded. She sold her home at a tremendous loss and slunk away in a dented U-Haul, hiding her face behind oversized sunglasses. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't look back. As for me, I reopened my land piece by piece, restored the barn, brought back the livestock, let wildflowers run wild down the creek. I kept some of the fence, the tall perimeter, standing like a monolith. At the front gate where Willowbrook's welcome sign once stood, I erected my own. Private property. Trespassers will be given a tour, and not the hospitable kind. Miller Ranch, established 1932. Respect the land, or learn why you should. Word got around. No one crossed the line. Not the scooter kids, not the walkers with dogs, not the busybody neighbors with their tape measures. They all stayed on their side of the iron bars, shooting suspicious glances like peasants at a castle wall. And the keys? They jingled from my belt, firm, gleaming, satisfying. I kept my eyes on them at all times. Some brave souls dropped by to talk, attempting fence mending. I listened. I nodded. Then I smiled the same slow smile I gave Karen on the last day. "No deals," I'd say, rattling the keys. "You made your bed." On the last day of summer, 1 year to the day since Operation Iron Gate, I was rocking on my porch with a glass of sweet tea, when the final moving van topped the rise and disappeared from view. The wind picked up and swung the gate shut with a clang that rumbled like thunder. Peace had descended on Miller Ranch. And as long as I live and these boots, it will stay that way. Because out here, under the big wide open sky, there's only one rule: respect the land, or learn why you ought to. Or